In today's video, we're going to be using Microsoft Excel to create ourselves a little spreadsheet that looks at the travel costs involved with these 5 sales reps. So basically what we've got is 5 sales reps that have to travel around Queensland as part of their job. And on a weekly basis, they had to note down how many kilometres they travelled. So as you can see next to Charlotte here, you can see the 4 weeks that she was travelling around Queensland, and each week we broke up how many kilometres she travelled in that week. And we did that also for Kim, Brock, Wyatt and Haley. Alright, so what our job is to do is make this spreadsheet look a little bit nicer so it's easier to read, as well as perform a few calculations on that data. Okay, if you look down a little bit lower, we've got some questions down here that we do need to answer, so let's get straight into it. Question 1 says we need to format the spreadsheet using appropriate colours, borders, sizes and alignment. Okay, so first thing we need to do is jump into cell B2 where we've got this heading, make it bolder and make it a bit bigger so it stands out, and might be a good idea to merge these cells. So highlight from cell B2 over to F2 and just click merge and center. That will just join those cells together. Next thing we might do is highlight the subheadings and make them bold. And before we go any further, I might make our rows and columns a bit bigger, because as you can see it's quite squished in there at the moment. So with our rows, I'm going to hover over number 2 here till it highlights green. And when it's highlighted green, I'm going to click and drag down. So I'm highlighting all the rows here, all the way down to row number 10. Then I'm going to right click on this green selection that I've made over here and just change the row height. I might bump it up by about 10, so it's 25 in height. Now I'm going to do the same for the columns, okay? So hover over the letter B until it goes green and then just click and drag across to the letter F. Right click your mouse, change the column width, and I'm going to try about 20. Yeah, that looks pretty good, so let's roll with that. Okay, so now that our table's spaced out a bit, it's a lot easier to read already. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight from week 1 down to the final figure, so 108, and just center align that text. I'm then going to highlight from travel costs down to the bottom of this section and put in a border. And then I'm going to highlight these 2 little boxes here and put a border around them as well. Okay, so it's starting to get a bit easier to read. A bit of colour wouldn't hurt now. So in the top box here for the header, I'm going to go to my fill bucket at the top and I might choose a dark green, which means I'll have to choose a nice light font like white so it stands out. For my subheadings, I'll choose a slightly darker green, and then every second row after that I might just highlight and make it a really light green, like so. So that's my table looking pretty good. I'm happy with how that is, so I think question 1 is ticked off. So let's just change its colour to show it's ticked off. Oops, I forgot to highlight down here. Better do that quickly. I'll just do it that way. So price per kilometre and just an empty box there. Yep, that's looking good. Right, so number 2 says add a column at the end of the table with the title total kilometres travelled. So columns run up and down. Okay, so the G's, the H's, the I's, they are columns. So we need to add one at the end of the table here. That's called total kilometres travelled. Okay, now the issue is none of the formatting has been copied across, okay? But we're not going to worry about that just yet. I might just make it a little bit bigger. Just leave it as a white box for now. We'll worry about the colours a little bit later on. Okay, so we can tick number 2 off because we've added that column to the end of our table. Number 3 says using the sum formula, complete the total kilometres travelled column by adding up all the kilometres travelled over the 4 weeks. Okay, so that's an easy one too. In this empty box here, we just want to add up the 4 weeks worth of kilometres that Charlotte travelled and then put the answer over here. So the way we do that is we write the equals sign first and then write the word sum, open up our brackets and then just highlight the 4 weeks worth of travel, and that's going to add together those 4 numbers. Close your bracket and press enter and you get your answer as 735. Now remember, when you're typing this in, I'm looking for the formula. Don't just copy my answer off the video because that's not going to get you a pass and I'll make you do it again. Okay, so write the actual formula in to get 735. Remember, I can click on this box and look up in the formula bar to see if you have written that formula or not. Okay, on to the next one now. Same thing, we write equals sum, open up our brackets, and then highlight those 4 numbers that Kim travelled over the 4 weeks. On to the next one, equals sum, highlight the 4 numbers, close the bracket. Next one is equals sum, open a bracket, highlight whites, kilometres travelled, close the bracket and press enter. And finally we write equals sum, and we add together Haley's 4 weeks of travel, close the bracket and press enter. Okay, so we've now got the total kilometres travelled by each person. So we can tick off number 3. Number 4 says add another column to the end of the table called total cost. Okay, so we've got another column that we need to add over here. So in cell H3 we'll write in total cost. And we'll just tick off number 4 because that's added in now. And then it says in cell C10, add in the price of petrol per kilometre, which is 10 cents. So in cell C10, so there's column C and there's row 10. So it's this green box here. We just need to write 0.10, which represents 10 cents. Okay, now to get the dollar sign up like I have, all you need to do is just pop up here and hit the dollar sign. And from the drop down box, another option is to just hit accounting. Okay, we want it in accounting format. Alright, so that will have number 4 ticked off. Actually, number 5, sorry. Let's go to number 6. Fill out the total cost column by using a simple equation. And that equation is the total kilometres travelled times the price of petrol per kilometre. Okay, so to work out how much it actually cost for these sales reps to travel around Queensland, we need to write the cost in here. So we write equals, and as the formula said, we click on the total number of kilometres travelled, and we times it by putting in a little asterisk by this cell here that has 10 cents in it. So the formula is equals G4, which is this number, times by C10, which is this number. And when you press enter, you can see it cost $73.50 for Charlotte to get around to those 4 places. Coming down to the next box, we write equals, we click on the 359 and then times it by the 10 cents. Okay, we just keep doing that. So equals, hit the total kilometres travelled, times it by how much the petrol was costing us per kilometre. Equals that times that. Alright, so it's basically petrol money. How much did the petrol cost? Last one is G8 times C10. And we get our answer. Okay, now as you can see, I've already got dollar signs on mine. Okay, you probably don't have them on yours, so remember to go up and hit the dollar sign up here to turn them on, making sure this drop down box says that you're in accounting. If you go to currency, you'll see it just kind of changes the alignment. The look doesn't change so much, but I think the accounting look does look best with the dollar sign on the left and the price on the right. Okay, so that's looking good. We might as well format these cells now to get them matched up with the rest of the table. So at the top here, this header, it needs to be merged and centered once more. We need to highlight cell G and H and get the width of the columns the same as the others. So I think it was 20, was it? Yeah, looks about right. Just double check that. Yeah, it was 20. Now we want to get this green color here into that box. So let's pick that green color we used before. We want it bold and we want it centered. And coming down a bit further, we want to center this text as well. And we just need to put a border around them now. So highlighting, we'll just highlight everything. And we'll stick in a all border option. Okay, and we just need to get these boxes color coded now. What about them? So a nice light green goes into them. And now that we've got that done, the total kilometers traveled and total costs actually look part of our table. Okay, so that's all good. So number 6 is finished. Tick that off. Number 7 says we need to format the price of the petrol per kilometre and the total cost column so they're in accounting format. We've already done that. That was just getting the dollar signs in down the left. and the decimal places there on the right. So that's all good. Number 8 says to create a column chart that displays the total kilometres travelled by each sales rep. Okay, so just highlight the information you need. So we need to highlight each sales rep, so from Charlotte down to Haley. Then we hold Control on our keyboard, and we're looking at the total kilometres travelled, so just highlight the numbers here. So now that we've got the total kilometres travelled and the sales reps, we can now go up to the Insert option, and what do we want? We wanted a column chart. So hit the column chart option and just choose the first one here. Feel free to scroll down and move that out to the side a bit. Might want to make it a little bit smaller. But now that you've got it to a good size, you want to give it an appropriate name. Okay, so chart title will be Total Kilometres Travelled. And while this chart's still selected, it's always good to add in a horizontal and vertical axis. So we'll put in sales rep there, and the primary vertical will be kilometres travelled. Alright, so there we go. If you want to hit the little plus sign, you can add in things like data labels. It'll give you the actual amount of kilometres travelled if you wanted to. I'm going to leave that out. Okay, I don't think we really need it, but that's what all that chart should look like. Okay, so we can tick off number 8. Number 9 says create a bar chart that displays the total cost from each sales rep. Okay, so we're going to have to highlight each sales rep's name again. Hold Control. This time, total costs. We want to know how much petrol money these guys were spending. Alright, so once we've got that, we're going to insert. We're going to go back to the column chart option, but go down halfway and choose a bar chart. And let's go and whack that in over the right hand side if we can get it there. It's been a little bit fiddly. Okay. So, the chart title. What are we looking at? We're looking at the total petrol costs. So basically total costs per sales rep. And while I've got this selected, we'll add in some chart elements. So the primary horizontal will be total costs, or total cost. And then the vertical will be sales rep. Now feel free to change the colour of that too. You've got this formatting option up here where you can change them around a bit. That looks pretty good. So I'm just going to move that up and put it next to the other one, resize it a bit. That looks pretty good. You can clearly see that Wyatt spent the most on his petrol money, and then that was closely followed by Brock, Charlotte and Haley, with Kim being the cheapest. Alright, so let's head back. Number 9's done. Number 10 says, using the max formula, determine which sales rep travelled the most kilometres. And we need to write our formula just over here. I did have some shaded boxes here I might bring back actually. That'll do. Whoops. There we go. So, max formula to determine which sales rep travelled the most kilometres. So in this first grey box we just write equals max because we're looking for the maximum number in a range of data. We open up our bracket and we highlight all the total kilometres travelled. So that's 735 down to 648. Close the bracket, press enter, and it tells us 1,216 was the highest number of kilometres travelled. So there it is there. And that person was Wyatt. So we write our answer over the side, just here, as Wyatt. Hopefully you can see that okay. And the final question, so we tick off number 10, says using the min formula determine which sales rep travelled the most. It should be the least amount of kilometres. I'll have to fix that before you guys get this worksheet. So we need to work out the min formula to see which sales rep travelled the least amount of kilometres. Okay, we write our formula in here. So we write equals min, open up a bracket, and just highlight those kilometres travelled again, and then close the bracket and press enter. We're left with 359. That was the least amount of kilometres travelled, so that would have been Kim. Okay, so over the right here we write our answer as Kim. Okay, zooming out now, that's our spreadsheet all done. That wasn't too hard. So we can now see the travel costs involved for these sales reps as they travel around Queensland from place to place. Got your two charts on the side here, make sure they're big enough to see and all the data's filled out correctly. And we've got a few formulas and answers written down the bottom. Okay, so if you've got all that done, make sure you save it up and we'll catch you in the next video.